Okay, we got our call here. Hello.
Hey, Mike. This is the guy that talked to you last week from Nevada. Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, I think.
Uh,
Am I sounding better this time?
oh yeah, I figured something out. I'm turning the volume down on the audio. I have a question that you're going to laugh at. I'm getting ready to buy a stainless tinker toy. And should I go 2-inch or 3-inch? And should I get the one with reflux or just a plain old pot?
Okay, let me get a better idea of what you got here. You're going to get a new still, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and you want to know
I've
2-inch?
I've got my boiler built. I've got the controls built for electric power to run what do you want to call the heating elements. That's all done and tested.
Oh, okay.
What I'm looking at now is, okay, I've been looking, I'll even mention the brand. I've been looking at the guys in Denver. And they have in the economy things, they have one for $180 and one for $230. One's 2-inch, one's 3-inch. The one for $230 is the same one that the guy back in, that puts his picture on all the stills is selling. They're all from China. I'm trying to decide which one makes the most sense.
I don't understand when you're saying 2-inch or 3-inch. What is 2 or 3 inches?
Okay, the diameter of the diameter of the stills themselves. One is a 2-inch that's about 30 inches long. The 3-inch is 36 inches long, but it has. So that's okay. That's confusing me.
Are you talking about the first piece of copper that comes off the pot?
I'm not even talking copper. I'm talking the stainless steel.
Okay, the first piece of plumbing that comes off the top of the pot.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So what you have a reflux going straight up for about 30 inches, and then you're going to. That's going to start.
Well, I'm trying to decide which one to buy, Mike.
Well, I really don't see much of a difference. Either one would be good. Are you? Let's see. The 3-inch does give you a little bit more of a heat sink for the reflux,
and I think more speed in the condensation. But I can't prove that.
Well, what you can do, you can buy the 2-inch. You could even buy a 1-inch. And what you can do is do an aftermarket thing. Put on some fins on the side, like the cooling fins on an air-cooled motorcycle engine.
Yep.
That will help compensate for having the smaller diameter.
Okay, well, my thing was, I'm figuring on, 10-gallon batches. And, the whole thing is coming down to, I'm sitting there saying, okay, rather than build it myself, I priced all the copper and stuff out, and I can buy one of the stainless ones cheaper than I can possibly build my own. By a significant margin, believe it or not.
Right.
I don't know. Am I still the only one here? Golly, I feel bad about this.
No, you're the only one here, but don't feel bad about it. As long as I got somebody to talk to, the night wasn't wasted.
Well, I don't want you to feel that you're wasting your time.
Plenty of people will see this on YouTube after I post it. I just got last week's session edited. Boy, that was a lot of editing with all that time delay crap.
Oh, the time? Yeah, well, I figured out something on my end, too. It's kind of like here, basically, I'm using the phone for both directions rather than, and then just listening on the headset so that you're not getting that coming back at you, which I think is making a bit of difference, too. And yeah, you nailed it on the head last week. Yeah, I do have a ham ticket for about 50 years now.
Yeah. When you started saying
Somehow you knew, huh?
When you started
but no,
saying...
this is my new hobby, and you know, I played around with one of the. Okay, I went the rich man's route, and I bought the little tea kettle from down south. I played with that, and it was fun. Don't get me wrong, it was fun. But when you're only getting about a cup and a half to 2 cups a run, that gets old awful quick, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And that's why I looked at building up a still kind of like you had, except I was going to build a riser, and and I tried the 12-quart pail and all this, and that's when I got a hold of a keg, and I was following some of the guys. Like there's a guy who does brewing on the East Coast, Bobby from New Jersey, I think, and he was selling these through wall fittings. Well, I did that, and I got the silver solder. I had a bunch of it laying around anyway. So I got the chemical, and, hey, it was a no-brainer. Making that keg into a boiler was no-brainer, Mike. I mean, it was so easy, it scared me. And, I know that sounds crazy, but, it was so easy. I went into it thinking, oh, boy, this is going to be tough, and it's going to be 2 inches thick. After I got the hole saw and cut the hole out, would you believe that a keg is only 62.5 thousandths thick?
Yeah, I would believe that.
I was surprised. I figured it'd be a 1/4 inch,
Oh, no. Nowhere. Maybe a little bit thicker, I would guess off the top of my head, but nowhere near a 1/4 inch.
Well, I wasn't expecting a 1/16 of an inch to be the thickness of the darn thing. And I basically followed all the directions, and, I wasted a bunch of money buying the high-dollar hole saws and all this. And, okay, if there's anything I've learned from that, yeah, it's nice having the right equipment when you're playing with this stuff, but you sure whiz away an awful lot of money in a big hurry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm in no hurry to upgrade my system.
Well, I can't blame you. I cannot blame you. And, I just did this kind of as okay, I'm fully retired and got nothing else to do on my hands.
I understand that. Me, I don't have the extra money. I don't even have the extra room. I gotta keep things small. So, I mean, I might go a little more complex, actually having rubber seals and lids that lock down instead of using bricks. But as far as capacity goes, I really can't go much bigger because I can't. I just don't have the room. Everything that I have comes apart and stores away. My pot still doubles as a soup pot.
Yep. You're getting double duty. And
getting double duty.
That's
right.
what I'm not going to have that. But this was an exercise in, okay, what am I going to do for fun? So I built my control panel. I finally powered the damn thing up. I've got 240 amp. One's an SSR, one is an SCR. One you control with a rheostat, kind of like what that TG 5500 the guy from back in Kentucky sells. Except I built mine for, let's see, what was it? A terrifying. I think I got $85 in it.
That's not too bad.
The other version, the one that's temperature controlled using the Type K thermocouple, I've got about $90 in that, and I put them both in the same damn panel. I could be running concurrently almost if I had the power. You still at one?
So you have 2 heating elements in the same still?
I have 2 heating control systems, not just one element. I'm only feeding one element. But
so you could switch back between the 2 controllers?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Okay, I know this sounds crazy, but okay, it was an experiment on my part to see.
Oh, no, there's
because
no such
I've heard
thing
some guys say, okay, control with power, and the other guys are saying control with temperature. I wasn't sure who was right, and I go, okay, I've got the time, I've got the money, and I'm going to figure out which one of them is right. If I have everything else identical, and I'm using the same element, okay, which one controls the easiest. I know that's a nutty experiment, but
No.
that's the direction I'm going.
Well, let me tell you my viewpoint on this. All right, you got all these fancy stills. Have you ever seen the what was it? The Turbo Still 500. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, and the guy in England that tells you what a wonderful, crazy thing is. Okay, but the problem I see with that, and the problem I see with it, what everybody else is selling, is they're all cooling management. I'm sure you've been to the Home Distillers website, where they talk cooling management, and then there's two
Right.
other kinds of how you're managing. And the guy that's up in Rainier, he's using not cooling management, but he's got the coil that's inside to do it. Okay, that's a different. What the hell? Oh, that's BM, I think. So he's controlling the volume to get his. Okay, all these guys are doing is confusing the hell out of people out there. Because you sit there and say, okay, what do I really want to do? Okay, keep it simple. Just you want to be able to say, okay, I want to do this. Okay, the way you built your original pot and your upgrade is simple, understandable, and you know what the hell is going on.
Right.
All these other things, you're sitting there saying, okay, do I really want to mess around with reflux? And last week, the other guy I was asking that question too, when he was talking about putting copper inside and then putting rashing rings in. Okay, I'm going to play with that too, but what I found so far in all the research I've done is they're saying just put the copper in, screw the rashing rings, because you want the same thermal the same thermal jacket all the way up to your reflux chamber. Okay, well, okay, somebody's right, somebody's wrong. Then these guys will say, well, hook up the water this way or hook up the water that way. And then you read the fine print on the reviews, and all the review guys say, well, you want two pumps, one to control the condenser and one to control the reflux condenser. And you're sitting there going, okay, who the hell is right? Somebody here is lying out their ass. And it's kind of hard to separate the wheat from the chaff here, Mike.
All right. Now let me boil all this information down for you. Now the reason that I mentioned the Turbo Still 500 is just a glorified coffee pot in my eyes, but it's got some.
Yes, it is.
It's got a couple pieces of high-tech equipment, and then you'll notice that all these people that they think they need thermostats on their stuff. Well, if you have all this stuff that's automatic, you don't learn anything. You're just following directions. So everything that you've seen me do, I've had to figure it all out on my own, and just through trial and error. I have no idea what temperature I'm doing anything at. All I know is I either like what's coming out and I leave it, or I don't like what's coming out and I make adjustments. So now that's what the Turbo Still 500 takes away from everybody is
Yep.
the learning experience. They're just, oh well, I gotta have the temperature at such and such degrees. Well, you brought up a very good point last week. You're at a high altitude, so the boiling point of everything is lower. So then everybody living up in the mountains was not exactly lied to, but they were given untrue information for their region, and so all the information that they have is bogus as far as they're concerned, and they're not going to know any difference. They're just going to think that they have to keep running at that specific temperature when the information has changed for them. Now, you my friend, you have a great learning experience ahead of you, because you have the dual controller. You can run one batch one way one week, the next week you can run the exact same batch with the different controller and figure out which one you like better. You don't need to know what temperature you're at. You just need to know whether or not you like your product or not.
Well, the whole thing to me is, okay, I've got all these toys and bells and whistles that Okay, they're surplus. A lot of it is surplus that's been sitting around from all my years of working. Okay,
Sure.
it's not really costing me a hell of a lot of money to put all the bells and whistles in. Do I really care? I'm probably the only guy that, okay, I used to calibrate instrumentation for military stuff. And I put my calibrator on the control instruments. I have certified instruments. How many people running stills are going to do that? Is it really going to matter on the bottom line? Hell no. The taste coming out is what's going to matter. I'm aware of that. But I'm just sitting there saying, okay, I'm going to try to apply a little bit of science to what has been for centuries voodoo.
Yeah. Go for it. You got the time. You got the money. Do whatever do your research and whatever you think you can do to tweak your system. Go for it, and it's all going to be a learning experience. Now there was one thing. If I ever get a video on the fractional stills, and that would be to don't put the thermostat measuring the steam. Put the thermostat on the plumbing itself, on the outside of the pipe, because it's that temperature that you want to maintain.
But okay, like here again, this goes back. Okay, you're gonna laugh. You hit the nail on the head again, and I'll tell you why you did. Over the years, I used to work in a lot of refineries. That basically all a gasoline refinery is a giant still.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm sitting there seeing these guys that are building these towers with trays in them. Hell, all they're doing is making a baby refining tower. That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
Except instead of being 120 feet long, okay, and they don't put their thermocouples in the vapor. They put it in liquid.
Now, I've seen the refracting still, where the guy had it so huge. This was from a professional company that made them. I forget the name at the moment, but the still was so tall it would not fit in their building. They had to make it outside, but they did accomplish one thing that I thought was amazing. His teacher from long ago said it's only possible to get alcohol at a certain percentage. I forget what that is. Like it might be 96, 98, 99, whatever that number was. He built this fractionating still so tall that it got a little bit higher than what he told that alcohol could be done. And the only thing that does, the heat, or the thing was so tall, all it has extra cooling on it. The extra amount of metal on there allows for more heat dissipation, and you can accomplish the exact same thing with a much shorter fractionating column, simply by putting fins all around it, the air cooling fins, like on a motorcycle engine. Then you could also put a computer fan on there, a little 5 or 12 volt computer fan on one or all of those fins, and you could turn off one or two fans or turn them all on, depending on the rate that you want to keep that fractionating tower cool. So you can accomplish all this stuff, and that's why I say it doesn't really matter whether you get the 2-inch or the 3-inch. You can even get a 1-inch, whatever suits your fancy. I think that you're going to be doing a lot of experimenting, and so yeah, go for that.
Well, I know that I'm not aiming for the target that you're really aiming for here, which is, you're wanting the guys that are wanting to do the pot stills at home. And I've been looking at the prices on, the manufactured pot stills. And you go on eBay, and even there, the guys that are pre-made them, I made a couple of 1-inchers, but I didn't get very much flow out of it. And I built the, what do they call it, of the condenser, I did 2.5 feet, 3/4 inch with half going down through it. And it kind of worked, but man, it was drip, drip, drip. And I'm going, Jesus Christ, there's got to be a faster way.
Well, patience is the key, my friend. It takes a while to get a good amount of alcohol, no matter how big the still is.
Yeah. Well, I just kind of wondered if that might have something to do with it, why they're, pushing the bigger one versus, the smaller one, because I'm looking at, about $100 difference between the two. And that's buying the copper to put in them, the ratcheting rings to put in them, all the tubing and all this. I'm sitting there going, okay, do I want to waste $100, or do I want to just keep it small and just go with it?
Well, see, now
and
I don't
I'm
know.
Thinking,
I don't know why they think they need ratcheting rings in there, and I don't know why they think they need those marbles in there. Okay, the copper. The copper, I understand. The copper is supposed to take out sulfates. That much.
Yep.
That much seems to be a fact. But all they're trying to do with the ratcheting rings and the little marbles in there is they're trying to give more surface area. They're trying to dissipate the heat, and I just told you a couple of ways to do that, and that's why they have the different ways of rigging up the plumbing and so on and so forth. There's many ways to skin a cat, and everybody thinks their way is the best. And I don't think any one way is the best. I don't think my way is the best. I just think my way is the simplest to understand and reproduce.
But it works for you, don't it?
Right. It works for me, and other people can relate to it. It's simple. I only put it together. The first one I put together with one wrench. Tell me how many stills you can put together with one wrench.
Well, not very damn many. I'll tell you that right off.
Right.
You're going in the right direction. You're going on the okay. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel here. We're not trying to build a production device, and I do understand that. And the example you used, that one that's nothing but a coffee pot with copper embedded ring, those, what they call them, saddles. That is nothing but a hell of a good batch of marketing on somebody's part. They don't really have any temperature control there. All they're controlling is the temperature on their condenser. They're not controlling crap on the boiler itself.
Well, they probably figure that the boiler itself just needs one set temperature, and if it's, the thing looks exactly like a coffee pot, so I suspect that it is just a coffee pot, and they might have adjusted the heat on it. Maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Well, I just figured they were looking for a commercial market and said, I'll bet we can sell the hell out of these. And, I'm watching the guy in Denver. Okay, yeah, he's pulling the same game, but at least he's fairly honest about it. He goes, my stuff ain't cheap, but here's what you're getting. It's going to look pretty. It's going to do this. Now I notice he's making them out of copper, if you want them, but they're going to cost a little bit more.
Right.
Everybody's going where the market is following. It still gets me, okay. It's kind of like the old joke back when I was a kid and was playing with motorcycles and cars. We used to say, speed costs money. How fast can your wallet go? You've heard that one too, haven't you?
No, I haven't, but it makes sense.
Well, the whole thing comes down to, okay, my whole investment in this, I'm probably going to have, probably $500-600 total in what I'm doing. But most of it, with the exception of the column itself, I will have done.
Right. Yeah, you can take great pride in doing your own thing. the thing long ago used to be model trains. Okay, now it's distilling. Times have
Well, what's
changed.
wrong with that? Not a damn thing, in my opinion.
Right. Only the model railroading used to take up entire rooms and probably piss the hell out of people's lives. Well, you can probably do the same thing with distilling, but it can take up a
Well,
lot less
only if
room.
you sample too much product and she comes home and finds you passed out.
Right. Your wife pulls the Willie
That's
Nelson
the only
on
thing
you.
I get concerned about. And I'm having fun. Okay, last spring about this time, I was really heavy into it, making 1-gallon batches, and I was kind of following your principle. I was using gallon milk jugs as my distillers. I punched a hole in the top of them and then glued in some little like aquarium tubing, and then dumped that into a water bottle. And I had 4 or 5 of them going at any given time. Then using the water bottle as the what's the word? Senior moment on my part, for the bubbler.
Oh, okay.
The lock.
For
But it worked. It worked
fermenting.
great. Yeah. 1-gallon milk jugs. I mean, okay, what's your price to it? Everybody buys milk by the gallon. You wash the damn things out. You clean them off. You drill a little hole in the top of it. You glue the tube in it and only have half an inch sticking down in, and it works great. Okay.
Yeah.
This is some more of the low-budget stuff, but it works.
I ran simpler than that. I would buy gallon jugs of apple cider. I'd take a little bit out and drink it just because to leave a little room in there for accidental foaming. Throw in a little extra sugar, maybe just a little bit extra yeast, and leave the cap loose. And the thing fermented just fine. I didn't modify anything. No tubing, no glue. Just left the cap loose, and the thing breathed, and that was the first time I had ever fermented anything that I had distilled.
And it worked for you.
And it worked.
The thing that gets me is I look at all these guys, and you've mentioned it a couple of times in some of your videos, where they say, oh, put a pound of cornmeal in the bottom, and then put a pound of sugar in, and then do this, and then do that. And like you said, at the end of it, does that cornmeal do anything? Not a damn thing. All you're doing is wasting cornmeal.
Well, some people, somebody left me a comment, said that he realizes that the corn's not actually doing anything. Excuse me. But he puts it in there just for flavor. That I can relate to. If you're gonna make it, make it to the taste that you want, even if
I never noticed that, but that's maybe after all these years, my taste buds might be shot too.
Yeah. To me though, I'm not putting anything in there that I'm not going to get something out of it. So, to me, using corn and not actually utilizing the starch, to me it's a waste. But for others, to each his own. So, more power to them for doing that. But these other guys that claim that they're making genuine corn moonshine, I just want to reach through the screen and throttle them. You're not making genuine corn moonshine, you idiot. You're just making sugar wash with corn in it.
Well, and some of the other things you've mentioned, that you wouldn't drink water out of some of these things people are calling stills.
Right.
I agree 100%. I'm amazed some of these guys haven't killed themselves and their friends making them in the aluminum pots and the aluminum. Okay, what was it? Some guy did aluminum tubing and all this. Okay, it stands to reason. Alcohol is going to attack the aluminum.
Well, the first pot still that I have, the pressure cooker, that is aluminum, but the way the purification works, all the bad elements should stay in the pot. I have no way of proving this. I'm trying to figure out a way to prove this. So I can't prove it one way or the other. have is theories. But now people that are using aluminum for coils, yeah, they shouldn't be doing that. Even though I did do it the first time I built one, but I didn't know any better. But you got this. There's this one guy out there. He's got a pretty nice looking still. The only thing wrong with it is I have no idea. He doesn't explain anything about it still, so I have no idea about its construction. So I wouldn't drink water from it. Then there's some other kid out there. He was gluing pop cans together with model cement, and I'm like, what?
Ooh. That's not going to be reactive, I think.
I don't know.
Well,
and some guy was trying to make a still using a automatic drip coffee maker, and I like, how are you going to make that work? Now some guys out there.
well, number one, usually a coffee maker never gets hot enough to boil to begin with. They don't like when it goes to 150, 160 degrees. They only need it really hot in that one little area.
Well, if I really put my mind to it, I might be able to get a coffee maker to make alcohol, to distill alcohol. If I put my mind to it, it would take a while. But I saw no reason that his coffee maker still was going to work any way whatsoever from his basic setup that he had.
Well, the guys that scare me are when you see 6 feet of rubber hose, and that's what they're running their alcohol through, and you're going, oh my God, no.
Yeah, it's one of the things I don't like. Seeing a piece of rubber hose in there somewhere in the coil.
And that's why I started following you, because, everything you have said, you've been straight up. And like, okay, even when you're saying, okay, even if you got silicone rubber for gaskets and stuff, okay, if you boil the hell out of them and put in the cinnamon, and now I got a kick out of some of the odd things that you used. What you were using, cumin and oregano and all kinds of things. And I thought to myself, yeah, it's going to make it smell different. And then the guy from...
I got another caller here. Hold on, will ya?
Would you like me to go away?
No, I'll just get this other caller and we can talk later.
Okay, right. Not a problem, big guy. Have at it.
All right, bye. Hello.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm doing good.
I was just, I was tuning in. My father actually homebrews, and I was taking a look around YouTube, and I came across your channel. And I was just interested, since I had a little time tonight to tune into your show.
Oh, okay.
How did you really start in, in winemaking and distilling, and what got you interested in it?
Probably the TV show MASH.
It's
a
good show.
Yeah, if you remember Hawkeye Pierce in the TV show MASH, he had his own little still in his tent, and the tent was called the Swamp. And they had their own gin at their own disposal any time of the day they wanted. And I don't know, as a little kid, I was wondering how that worked. I had no idea how they managed to make alcohol with that contraption, and that was just something that when I became of drinking age, it was just thinking about it some more again, and a friend of mine who was in the South for a short period of time, I just started talking about it with him, and we were just bouncing ideas off each other's heads. There was probably one time when I was a lot younger where I tried making a really small boiler, and I mean really small, and then tried using a piece of rubber hose as a condenser. It probably worked for about 5 minutes, but and the water, there was water going through it, not alcohol, and it
Yeah.
tasted terrible. It tasted just like a rubber hose. So it's
I
just
can imagine it would.
yeah.
I mean, I really, what interests me in a lot of it is I'm a big fan of chemistry. It's not something I'd be pursuing at a higher level, but I enjoy the chemistry and how the science behind it works. And I mean, even if at the end of the day you leave the drinking to the others, it's a good it's a good fun way to it's a lot of sitting around, but it's something my father and I enjoy doing together.
Mhm.
So I'm not quite sure if this. I want to ask you as well. I'm not quite sure if this would be applicable, but you on your YouTube channel had a video about a year or so ago on Monsanto and GMOs.
Oh,
Is that correct?
that was yeah. I had just given it that title just so I could probably attract some more viewers. I
Mm.
mean, I was just showing how easy it was to put a garden almost anywhere, even if you have an apartment up on the second story, you could still make yourself a little garden. And this is the only practical way that you're going to fight GMOs is by growing your own food.
Yeah, it's actually. I was curious because I'm actually working with. I'm one of the local chapter leaders with GMO-free Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
It's a statewide organization in Pennsylvania that is dedicated to getting the information out on GMOs and letting people know in our communities. So I figured there was a story behind that video. Yeah.
Well, it was just basic gardening from a person that really knows nothing about gardening. I mean, my parents had a garden, my grandparents had a garden, but other than digging up soil and putting seeds in the ground and watering it and maybe throwing on some fertilizer, I really don't know jack squat about gardening, but yet I can still
Yeah.
make a relatively decent garden. And the last video, I just decided to, hey, this is even though I already had a title on it, but I figured if I used the word GMO, it probably would attract some more viewers, and these viewers might get the
Exactly.
idea. Hey, yeah, duh, why didn't I think of that? If I want to fight GMOs, grow my own food.
Yeah, and I mean, one of coming from one of the leaders of the local chapter of GMO Free PA, I will agree with you there. It's a really good way if you're not a big fan of Monsanto, grow a lot of your own stuff. I mean, my good friend, who he and his parents as well are some other of our chapter's leaders. They taught sustainable agriculture in Africa, and they have been growing. They have a garden here that's got all sorts of, purple carrots, things you'd literally never see on a supermarket shelf.
Right, right.
I mean, and I personally, I don't know jack diddly about gardening either, but I can say that it's not really as hard as a lot of people would make it out to be.
Yeah, yeah. The garden that you seen me using, it's a trailer used to sit there. So I mean, it's not the best ground in the world, and
Yeah.
I have yet to get a carrot to grow in that dirt or corn. the guy from a couple lots over, we decided to split that lot, and he threw in some corn, and I think the corn only reached about 3 feet high. But yet,
Mm.
you can take simple vegetables like tomatoes and cucumbers, and there's a few other things in there that grow good. They'll grow good every single time. Tomatoes grow every time. Cucumbers grow practically every time. Yeah, some stuff is trickier, but some stuff is just super easy.
Yeah, I would say as well, a lot of stuff that's not too tricky. I mean, those tend to be, you know, things that'll pretty much grow anywhere you ask them to. Not
Yeah,
obviously not anywhere, but I mean things that crops you'll see that'll be frequently grown in a diverse range of climates and areas are tend to be the ones that will withstand some harsher ground, some you know even some varieties of potatoes could theoretically grow in different kinds of soil conditions, but I think tomatoes are a really good one. My grandparents and I have grown tomatoes. We, as I said, my friends in their garden, they grew kale, they grew cabbage, they grew some strawberries, and all a whole wealth of different types of crops that would you probably wouldn't think would grow too good, but they grow pretty well.
yeah, and there are some things. There are some things. I hear a car running in the background. I apologize. The neighbor doesn't have a
It's
muffler on his vehicle, obviously, and I don't know what he's doing. But there are some things that I didn't want to plant, and I went in. I went in with the idea that while I'm only going to plant the stuff that all I have to do is just reach out and grab it. I'm not going to dig it up. I'm not going to climb for it. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to reach out and grab it. So, no potatoes because that required, a little shoveling.
Yeah,
So,
that's just a little bit of work in there.
and I really didn't know when it was a good time to harvest the potatoes. So, and you can't really see how a potato looks without digging it up. But tomatoes, it's almost a no-brainer. Okay, there it is. It's growing. I can see it's growing. Okay, it's nice and
Yeah,
red. I can eat that.
I mean, and theoretically as well. I mean, I don't know if if you were to be a little more successful growing corn, like you said you had attempted, would that would you still be would you consider using that corn that you grew to make a batch of moonshine with corn whiskey with?
Oh, I don't think so. Um, no, I would only grow stuff that I'm going to eat. It wouldn't make much sense to, because we like buying corn on the cob
Yeah.
fresh all the time anyway. So if I were to grow it, it would seem like I wouldn't exactly know. I'm not that comfortable with grains as it is, so that would be a bit of a stretch for me. You know,
Yeah, that's what I would have. I mean,
I mean, if I was
coming
growing
from a
if I
yeah,
was growing field corn, on
yeah,
the other hand, and I had enough of it, I mean, we're only talking a difference here between quantity. Now I only have enough garden space where I could have some corn on the cob once in a while. Whereas if I was growing field corn, I might grow enough for 1 gallon batch, and that doesn't seem worth the time. I could just go out and buy a 20-pound bag of
Yeah,
cornmeal over at an
exactly.
Amish market for probably pennies on the dollar.
And I mean, and a lot of, and I've seen it, a lot of the stuff you have done in the past before for videos is very, I mean, it's all just run out to the supermarket and grab this, grab that, and I mean, you don't need any fancy, I mean, I could even just running out into the whole fridge in the garage. There's all sorts of mason jars. I mean, for beer making, you need all sorts of fancy yeast with fancy names, and you don't really need that for for any sort of
Right. Yeah, you
I
don't
mean,
need fancy stuff for anything. You just need the basic stuff. I mean, once you have a basic knowledge of what it is that you're doing, yeah, you might want to think about switching to fancier stuff. But first, you need the basic knowledge of everything. No matter, even if it's gardening, whether it's moonshining, whether it's
yeah,
gardening, the HHO experiments that I ran, you got to have a basic knowledge of all this stuff, and then use basic stuff to start out with, and then as your knowledge grows, well, yeah, you can expand what you're using and use the fancier stuff like the hydrogen systems.
yeah,
I don't have any electronics on there because I I'm not into that. I'm limited.
yeah,
I'm limited by my living quarters, and I don't have a barn or a shed or anything like that to go out to. If I do any work like that, I got to do it outside on a picnic table.
hmm
So
yeah. Although I will comment as well that that was a very interesting series with the HHO. I haven't gotten too far into it, but I think I kind of know the basics of of where it's starting to go. I've uh, I've taken a gander at the first couple of episodes, and it's actually really it's surprisingly different from anything that you'd think. Oh well, this is what I'm gonna do today. It's fun little alternative experiment that sort of makes you think. Well, this is the technology we have, and how can we use that?
right.
And thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be tuning in for the rest of the show here. And,
Okay.
have a good night, man.
All
I
right.
appreciate taking my call.
All righty. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Yeah.
Hi. How you doing?
You're back.
I'm back. No, this is my front.
Okay, this is your front. Yes, it is. When this guy was going off about some of the things he was talking about with veggies, I got to thinking, I've got this stuff in my background. My great grandfather used to make. I heard stories about back in the 30s, early or 20s and 30s, some of the things he made. And okay, I'll turn that down some. I can do this. Makes it easier to talk.
Yeah.
And then my father used to mess around making wheat wine.
Wheat wine. Wow.
He made wine out of wheat. Okay, well, hell, we had 160 acres of wheat every year, and getting a bushel of it was no big deal, right?
Right.
And, okay, I always thought the stuff was nasty. It always had an aftertaste, and he didn't filter it except through a cheesecloth. But it did have a winey taste to it, and it had some alcohol kick if you drank enough of it. But, Okay, he never went as far as distilling, and I got to asking some of my cousins if they remembered if great grandpa had a still. They couldn't remember, but they knew he made raisin jack, apple jack, and peach brandy. So I'm thinking the old guy must have had a still
He,
rat hole back on his
if
place.
he was well, there was a couple people on YouTube. They make something and they call it brandy, but it's not brandy. But yeah, he might have had a still.
Kind of makes me wonder. I'm wondering if some of this is hereditary. You were talking about what turned you on to it was the show Mesh, and I was cracking up when you were talking about that, and I remembered, yep, and they had the little still off over in the corner. I never even gave that a thought much before, but that's very true.
Well, if I'm going to be honest about it, it probably was the TV show MASH that probably first gave me my first glimpse of a still, even if that still works or not. It's just a prop, but still, there it is. It's the elephant in the room, so to
Yeah.
speak. And it's just like, how does that thing work? And I'm the type of guy. When I was a kid, I used to take my toys apart after I got done playing with them to see how they worked.
Taking a still apart, you sit there going, well, there's nothing here. How can it work? Now, I got a kick out of when that kid was talking HHO stuff. Okay, I got real interested in that a few years ago. But like you said, you got awful technical awfully quick. Yes, that technology has been around. Hell, they were using it during War II in the desert because the trucks would run cooler on it. The trucks and tanks ran cooler with HHO than they did on regular gasoline. Okay, and I think the government, okay, shame on me for saying this, conspiracy theory time, there is something to HHO.
You're right. Uh, okay, don't know. I don't know exclusively if HHO works on everything, but I have seen enough to keep an interest in it.
Yep. And that was kind of what lit my fuse about playing with alcohol. I'm sitting there going, okay, you run the highest number, and then I got to doing counting numbers, and even the cheapest sugar you can buy, or okay, your cost per gallon, you're still going to end up paying damn near as much, man, have as much work in it as what you're paying for the pump for gas. Well, the alcohol run on the vehicles, anything since what, 92 or 93? Yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, the minute we started pumping our vehicles full of alcohol, the price of everything else got more expensive. Eggs got more expensive because the chickens eat corn, and now the corn is a higher price because we're using it all up to make alcohol for our
Yep.
vehicles. A steak
And
costs more money
I've
because
been
the cows
watching
are
the
eating the
sawgrass
corn.
experiments and stuff like that. Trying to get the sugar out of that. Getting it out of sugar cane or something. I was a farm kid when I grew up, and we used to put up what we call silage. Where you go out and
Yeah.
chop up the corn plant itself or milo plants, and they had a hell of a high sugar content.
Hmm.
We weren't even thinking about that back then.
Right.
So yeah, there's other ways to get there from here. But getting back to the fun things that we love to talk about here, I was kind of curious. Okay, there's a guy. Okay, the guy that's up in Washington? He was showing where he's using pieces of inner tube to seal the top of his still with, and he didn't say anything about boiling the hell out of it after he made the gaskets out of the bicycle inner tube. But from what you were saying in one of your shows on how to do things, if I was going to pull that stunt, I would boil a living hell out of it before and use the cinnamon and all those other things before I ever used it as a gasket, wouldn't I?
Yeah, yeah. And so what I might use rubber inner tube as a gasket, but you're right. I would try to break it in thoroughly first. the reason that I thought of this was, well, the first still that I had, I have no idea the age about on it. It's at least 10 years old, guessing, maybe 20 years old. So the gasket has plenty of time to break in, but I eventually had to get a new gasket because things get old and worn. And I was thinking, man, this is brand new. It's not broken in. It's gonna take me a while to get it broken in. What can I do to get it broken in? Well, start using it in a way that is similar to making food, and then it'll get broken in. So, um, yeah, just drop it in a pot of boiling water and add some food stuff into there, and a friend of mine at work had told me about how like when you have a cold, you should take cinnamon because it's supposed to draw out the toxins. And I seen something on the internet that verifies that old wives' tale or whatever you want to call it. And so yeah, so I just added stuff. The idea is that everything fresh from the factory is going to have some residue left on it. Even a brand new stainless steel coil has some going to have some type of residue from the factory. So you should probably clean it the first time. Even if you don't have to worry about it the rest of its life, you should clean it properly the first time to get all the extra stuff out of it. So yeah, the brand new rubber seal is going to leach a lot more toxins. It might leak just a little bit of toxin over the course of its life, but it's a minimal amount. But the only thing you got to worry about is the fresh one, because it's chock full of bad stuff. So just, you know, if it smells like food, well then it's absorbed food and it's released its toxins. That was my thinking
Well,
behind that.
that stands to reason. You go buy a new pressure cooker. What's the first thing they tell you in the instructions? You that take the silicone gasket and you rub the hell out of it with some kind of oil, safflower oil or olive oil or whatever, and then you boil the crap out of it, make steam for an hour, and then let it cool down and wash it before you ever use it. So what they're doing is they're taking all the surface chemicals off of the
Right,
gasket. Same principle.
right. I had one guy try to tell me that no, the gasket is always going to be spewing chemicals until the gasket is completely gone. I'm like, no, the gasket is not ever going to be completely gone. So that thinking is null and void. It might have a minuscule amount of stuff, but it's going to be virtually undetectable.
I have another question, and you're going to laugh at this one.
Okay.
I took one of your ideas last year, where you said, getting chips. So I went down to the hardware store and I bought a bunch of apple smoking chips.
Okay.
And I tried it on several different batches. The thing I noticed is the apple, maybe I was over letting it set too long or something, or I put too many chips in. I would end up with some pretty bitter tasting things. Now, should I have toasted those in the oven before I used them?
You might have used too much. You probably could have toasted them too, but I'm thinking that you probably just used too much.
Well, I put 2 or 3 inches in a quart jar and then fill the rest of it up with alcohol and let it sit for a week.
2 or
And it
3
would
inches.
come out, yeah.
That sounds like too much.
Well, see, that was what I was wondering. I watched you to only put like maybe an inch in the bottom of the jar.
Right. Yeah, just a handful.
So I was overkilling on that one. Well, these are the things we learn, like you were saying, the things we learned the hard way.
Yeah, someone had left me a comment. If you go back and look at that apple wood aging, and you look way back in the comment section, someone was pounding his chest and jumping up and down. You can't do that because you're going to get a bitter taste. Well, I already did it, and everybody liked it. Well, they only liked it because you were giving them free alcohol. Okay, whatever. I had a couple of old people, and they really liked their alcohol, and it was New Year's, and the old man, I said, hey, when first made my first batches of alcohol with the equipment that I have now, they were pretty much my guinea pigs. And I was like, hey, you like that? Oh, wow, that's good. And, and
Got their attention, you know.
yeah,
It's kind of
got
like,
there.
okay,
They were like, oh, wow, that's really got a kick to it. And so then on New Year's, I said, hey, here, I got a little couple samples here for you. You go ahead and tell me which one you like better. Here's some unaged alcohol. Here's the exact same thing, only this has been aged a little bit with the applewood chips. He said, "Oh, I really like the applewood chips in that one." Okay, here, I gave him a little water bottle full of that, and there you go. You go ahead and have a good time with that. So yeah, I so from that, uh, I would say that you just overshot.
okay. That makes perfect sense to me. You got a little too crazy with it,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
I
Now,
have
have you
gotten.
tried cherry?
No, I have not tried cherry yet, but it probably along the same lines. It probably will taste good in small amounts. They also have peach and pecan, and those might work similar. I don't know, but there are some woods that you can try, and there are some woods that you can stay away from. Anything that's good for smoking, though, is worth trying. Anything that's not for smoking, there are some woods you could stay away from. Obviously you should stay away from pine. I shouldn't have to tell you why. There's just some trees out there that shouldn't be used.
No, basically, I wouldn't use anything that was a conifer because you got so damn much rosin in there,
Right.
it would wipe you out. The hardwoods, okay, and okay, we got a local brew shop downtown that carries a little bit of everything, and I've gone in there and they carry toasted oat chips, but God Almighty, the price they're asking for them.
Hmm. Right.
And I still try to keep things on a budget. You make as best you can as okay, to quote you, as cheaply as you can. That's why your great brandy thing is so good.
Right.
You want something that ends up tasting good without having the oh my God. And no, I cannot drink wild turkey.
Well, I can probably drink it.
I
My
don't like it. A lot of the things. Oh, I was going to ask you also. Last week I alluded to that Moonshine Academy that YouTube finally threw off the air.
No,
But
I
one of
found
the
it.
things that I got a kick out of was she was telling about using the sour mash, where she was using 30% sour mash back. What came out of the still, 30% went back into the next batch of
Oh,
wash. Have you
okay.
played with that at all?
No, no, I have not. Like I said to the previous caller, that I'm just barely got my feet wet as far as grains go. That's mostly why, a lot of the reason why I stick with sugar-based washes, fruits and stuff like of that nature. I'm not, I have gotten my feet wet, so to speak, but I haven't really taken the whole plunge.
Well, there again, there are so many. That's why I got jazzed on this hobby. There's so damn many directions to go that it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and again, that's why I tell people who are new at this, stay away from that complex stuff until they know what they're doing with the simpler stuff.
Well, the only thing that I got, that kind of burnt me out last year when I was playing around with that Mister Distiller. Um, okay, there again. Okay, the things I was making out of pure sugar, and yes, I was using the turbo yeast, and that stuff puts a nasty flavor in there you can't get rid of. I don't care how many damn times you run it through the charcoal.
Yeah.
You're laughing about that.
Well, it's just that I've heard this story so many times from so many people, and your emphasis on how terrible, that's the key right there. That's what's making me laugh. Your emphasis on how bad it was, and no matter how many times you're going to distill it, you're still going to know it was turbo yeast. That's the part I find funny.
Well, that and you couldn't control the temperature. And see, that was what got me off on this new tangent. Was okay. Is that pot getting too hot before you get into the tails, and is that overheating the boiler causing some of that nasty taste?
That could be it. That could be part of it. Yeah.
And
I have no idea because I don't have it here to test personally. But I think that I remember seeing that on TV, but it was only supposed to be for water. Whether they decided after the fact that you could distill alcohol with it, or they knew about that and they just wanted to advertise it distilling water, I don't know. But
okay, if you're wanting to distill water, okay, but even there, hell, to run the pot dry took 8 hours. Who in the hell wants a gallon in 8 hours? Tell me the practicality of that.
well, the practicality is that I set it, I go to work, I come home, it's done.
Yeah, but a
That's
crock pot works the same damn way.
Yeah, but you also have to have the knowledge to set it up.
Yeah.
People of this age, they're forgetting how to do simple things like cook a freaking meal.
Let's not go there. My wife is learning how to cook finally after all these years.
Well,
Oh, shame on me.
I'm not a gourmet chef, but I can feed myself.
Yep.
That not
And the other thing now, something you never really said anything about. Are you using well water or are you using city water?
uh our community has a well, and
Okay.
they do chlorinate it, but they don't fluorigate it.
Okay. Well, I kind of wondered about that because one of the things I played with is the first few batches. Oh, I followed all the rules and I went and bought the distilled water and did all this and did all that. Finally, one day I said, you know what? Screw this. Let's see what happens with tap water. No difference whatsoever. Couldn't even tell a difference in the finished product.
Right. Now I did
And
live.
I'm on city water, but our water's coming out of Tahoe anyway, so we're pretty clean to begin with.
Yeah. Now there was a place where I was living years ago. Uh, the water came out of a well, but they put so much chlorine into it. Um, it was almost worthless. I mean, everybody brought in water from outside sources, and I made a pitcher of grape Kool-Aid with this water once, and the heavy chlorine in there turned the grape color brown.
That was your first clue you weren't going to drink it.
Yeah.
Well, I've been around where I grew up at. We had a lot of iron in our water.
Yes.
Okay, and yeah, the rusty stuff comes through, and a hot water heater. If you got 3 years out of one, you were happier than hell. Well, it's true. I mean, they would just take up
Yeah.
like crazy.
Yeah. I know.
And yet you see the guys, okay, you get down in Kentucky and Tennessee, and they're bragging about their limestone water. Well, if they let limestone water sit for a while, it would ruin their day too.
Probably.
So, okay, how important really is the water unless it's really nasty? It's going to work.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Water with almost anything in it to a degree is going to work. And of course, there's going to be a cutoff point to where you can't use it because it's just got too much stuff. It's the same thing as the yeast converting the alcohol. The alcohol is going to poison the yeast at some point, but up until it gets to that
Yeah.
point, it's going to work. So,
Well, you remember on Moonshiners when those the two guys were and did all the strawberry stuff, and they ended up with Blue Moon and couldn't figure out why? Hell, it
right.
was the acid in it. It was too acidic.
Well, yeah, I've heard that, but there's also I don't know that that's a verifiable fact until I actually try that. They could have had bad copper and didn't clean it
Oh, I never thought about that. You're absolutely right. If they hadn't cleaned it,
because I have to every time I have that little bitty coil, and if I let it set for a week, just a week, I have to clean it, and I get the same
just in
green.
a week it will set up to that point when you run the vinegar through it and you get
Y-
that much blue
yes,
out of it.
yes. If I use it within a couple days, I don't worry about it. But if it sits for a week, I clean it, and I always get the greenish blue water out of there.
That's a pretty good clue. So that could be been half their damn cause. They didn't have a clean still.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many of these moonshiners are out there. They have the knowledge to build a still, but they don't think that there might be some contamination in the still after they got it, and they don't. I off the top of my head, I figured out how to clean it years ago, and after I cleaned it, oh man, what a difference it made.
Uh huh.
And that was with a non-copper coil.
See, that's why I'm so in love with stainless is because, okay, what do I got to do to clean it? Gee, I throw a little dish soap in it, let it soak for a half hour if I want to, heat it up, and then rinse the hell out of it, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Right.
Okay, that's just a lazy old man for you.
No, that's
But
nothing.
there again, that's what makes this so much fun. Each one of us is on a different learning curve. Each one of us picks up something new, something different. I picked up a lot of good ideas from you. I picked up some good ideas from several other people, and I'm going, well, why does that work? And you give it any thought, and you go, oh, that's why. And they claim Popcorn Sutton used to use ketchup to clean his out with.
Hmm.
Well, why? The acid, the tomato acid, right?
Well, that and I think ketchup has a little vinegar in it too, so probably
Yes,
a
it does.
probably a combination of both is probably working at that.
Well, it makes you wonder. By the way, you're looking a hell of a lot better than you did last week.
Oh, thank
Are you
you.
feeling better?
Oh yes, much better.
Because you look like you were kind of not feeling too wonderful last
Well, I
week.
was I was I had gotten through the rough patch, and I was still on the recovery.
But you look recovered, pal.
Thank you.
No other takers tonight. I keep hoping this will grow.
Well, hey, at least I got somebody to talk to, so it's not a total loss, and maybe it will.
Well, I'm hoping it takes off.
But we
You've
also,
got so much good information to impart. I would think that a lot of these beginners out there, after being sold a bill of goods, okay, it's kind of like my Linux experience. After I found Linux, and I was mad at Microsoft for 3 years. Uh, same kind of difference. Okay, you guys have been taking money out of my pocket and giving me a crappy product. I get a better product for free. What's wrong with this picture?
right.
And once I got to playing with that, and I've got there's so many directions to play in, and okay, you're still working for a living, so you don't have a hell of a lot of time to play. I got almost unlimited play time, darn it.
Right.
So that's why I started playing with this last year, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to do it right this time. I'm not going to half-ass it. The other thing is, now one of the things you were saying had was keeping the wash warm. You have to blanket around it and all this stuff. Have you ever tried using an aquarium heater to keep it warm?
No, because that would just be an extra piece of equipment that I have to go out and buy, and that would leave me short a couple bucks for something else. So, uh, what
Okay.
what I would do is I would put my winter coat around the jug, and I would put the thing over the heat register.
And hope it didn't get too damned hot.
Yeah.
Well, I actually thought about building a box out of plywood, maybe throwing a little insulation inside of it, and then taking a couple of 100-watt light bulbs and having an on-off controller, one of my on-off controllers, fire that on and off to maintain like an 80-degree temperature and 85-degree temperature inside of that box. I think that would work and probably work pretty well.
Well, you probably don't even need the light bulbs. You could probably just slide in a heating pad.
Never thought of that. That'd be too easy.
the
See, there we go. Different people think of different solutions to a same problem.
well, there
No,
are
I've
two
been
there are two different types of heating pads. They have a heating pad now that has an automatic setting. After you turn it on, it'll turn itself off after a little while. But I still think they have the old kind that it still has high, medium, and low, but I think it'll stay on until you actually turn it off.
Well, I've wondered about that. One of the things, everybody says, on the West, you see these guys that are buying the little thermometers to put on the side of their jugs and all this. You would laugh at how I was telling what my temperature was. One of my things in my toolbox was an infrared thermometer. Had a little laser on it. You'd point it at something, get about 3 foot away, and it was usually accurate within a degree. And I
Oh,
found out if the wash wasn't clear, before it really got really clear, it worked great.
well, I don't find that funny. I think that's very practical. You already had the equipment on hand. But me, I wouldn't do that because I don't know if I would ever use that piece of equipment for anything else again. I
There you
might.
go. Different trades, different tools, right?
Right, right. Well, I'm a jack of all trades. I have enough tools to try to work on almost anything, but not enough to work on anything specifically.
Well, I was jazzed on your HHO on the motorcycle where you were using the headlight as a current limiter.
Right.
That was inspiration. Where did you come up with that idea? Because that was inspired.
Well, these jackasses that are always yelling, "HHO doesn't work. HHO doesn't work." It right here. The physics behind it state that it can't work because you got to use power to create power, and you can't if you take away two and add back two, that's just okay, all right, fine. Let me think outside the box here. Well, what I decided to do was use power that was being used anyways. And now
Yep.
what the idea of this came from, I forget the name of it. I could look it up, but there's a type of steam engine that has three different pistons instead of just one. And what happens
Yep.
is the steam goes into the first piston, pushes the piston, and then the piston pushes the steam back out. But then the steam gets reused in a slightly smaller piston and pushes that piston down and then pushes it back up. And then that steam gets reused a third time and pushes another piston down. And this increases the mileage you would get on your steam engine. And so I took that concept a step further and said, okay, well, this energy is being used once. Well, the energy doesn't stop. The energy is still flowing. So what if I were to use that energy again? Well, how am I going to use that energy again? Well, if I make the HHO unit super big, the energy will pass pretty much unscathed as it's going through there, and that's pretty much
Yep.
how I came up with the idea.
Well, it worked.
It
I was
worked.
jazzed as hell watching you do that.
Now, if you could take that one step further, that was just with a light. The light is a little bit dimmer than it normally would be, but it still proves that the concept works. If you could take that one step further, excuse me, if you could take that one step further and you got the alternator in your car making energy, that energy is
Yep.
then passed through that type of HHO unit, and then the rest of your car acts as the control unit.
Or current limiting, saying
Right.
okay, you're not gonna have a runaway.
Right.
And that impressed the hell out of me. You know, instead of having a resistor getting hot for no reason, you said, okay, hey, I'm going to take Mr. Edison's resistor, and I'll bet it works.
Yeah. That's just all I did was take a resistor that is already serving one purpose and make it dual purpose.
Yep. That was great thinking outside the box, Mr. West Coast.
You're welcome.
But no, I got a kick out of that when I saw what you did on the motorcycle and the scooter, and I'm going, I can't believe he did that. But I understand the concept, and yeah. And, you know, a lot of these turbine-powered things, you get on, go on military ships, or not just the steam engines, but the guys that are power generating places. They've got primary turbines and secondary turbines. How do you think a jet engine works? How many sets of turbines have they got inside a jet engine? Same concept.
Half a dozen.
Same concept, you know, except they use a little more fuel.
Right.
Okay, how about if I back out of here and let you see if you got somebody else that doesn't think that I ought to be hogging all your time?
Well, I'm looking on here, and right now it's saying I have 0 viewers, but you're still here, and I will play this back at a later date, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, don't worry about it. You know, hey, I just been having fun chatting about things.
And like I said before, it doesn't matter what the topic is. I'll throw in my 2 cents.
Well, don't get it wrong. You're a cheaper date than my bride is.
Okay. Well, the camera,
Okay.
my camera just died, so I probably should call it a night.
I would say so. Hey, thank you for putting up with me, Mike.
Yeah, no problem.
And have yourself a good evening.
All right. You too.
Bye for now.
Bye. And with that, we will conclude tonight's show. And I thank the people that tuned in and called in. And I thank people that are going to be watching this show at a later date on this format or on YouTube when I rebroadcast this later. All right? So, good night, and be safe, and we'll see you later.